Evelyn Hart used to believe that love, when it was real, was always enough. She believed it in the way Margot Lane laughed with her whole heart, in the way Margot reached for her hand in crowded places, as if the world might take her away, in the way us felt permanent even without promises, rings or plans written in stone. They loved quietly, not because they were afraid, but because it felt sacred. A love that didn't need witnesses, a love that felt like home. Evelyn never asked for forever. She didn't need it spoken. She thought love like theirs didn't end, it only grew. But love, she would later learn, is not always chosen. Sometimes it is felt deeply and still left behind. And the day Evelyn found out Margot was getting married, she realized that loving someone once does not mean they will choose you every time. This is not a story about betrayal. There was no villain, no shouting, no cheating, just two women who loved each other, and a future that chose only one of them. Evelyn Hart wasn't looking for love. She had learned to be careful with people, with feelings, with anything that promised too much. Life had taught her that expectations were quiet liars. They smiled at you, then disappeared when you needed them most. Margot Lane arrived in her life on an ordinary afternoon. They met in a small cafe tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop. Evelyn was seated by the window, pretending to read while staring at the rain. Margot walked in late, hair slightly messy, eyes searching for an empty table until she smiled at Evelyn. "Is this seat taken?" Margot asked. Evelyn shook her head. "No." That was all. No sparks, no thunder, just a seat shared by two strangers. But somehow Margot stayed. They talked about small things, coffee that tasted burnt, books they never finished, songs they listened to when they couldn't sleep. Margot laughed easily, openly, like she wasn't afraid of being seen. Evelyn found herself listening more than speaking. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel the need to guard herself. They began meeting like that by accident, then by choice. Sometimes it was coffee. Sometimes it was quiet walks home. Sometimes it was just sitting together, saying nothing at all. Margot never rushed her. Never asked questions Evelyn wasn't ready to answer. And that somehow made Evelyn fall. Not dramatically. Not all at once. She fell in the way people do when they feel safe. Slowly, gently, without realizing they were already too deep. Evelyn didn't call it love yet. She just knew that whenever Margot smiled at her, the world felt softer, and that was enough. For now. Evelyn noticed it in the smallest moments, in the way Margot always remembered how she took her coffee, and how Margot waited, never walking ahead, always matching her pace, in the quiet comfort of silence that didn't feel awkward, only full. It scared her. Evelyn had always believed that love announced itself loudly, that it came with racing hearts and restless nights. But this arrived softly, like something that could easily be broken. They never called their meetings dates. They never labeled what they were. Still, people started to notice. "You two look good together," someone once said casually. Margot only smiled. Evelyn looked away. That night, Evelyn lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every laugh, every glance, every almost touch. She told herself she was imagining things, that Margot was just kind, that comfort didn't mean love. But when Margot's hand brushed against hers the next day and didn't move away, Evelyn's heart betrayed her. She wanted more, and wanting scared her, because wanting meant hoping, and hoping meant risk. Margot, on the other hand, seemed fearless. She talked about the future like it was something open-ended. She spoke of places she wanted to see, lives she wanted to live. Evelyn listened and wondered, quietly, if she was meant to be part of those dreams or just someone Margot met along the way. One evening, as they sat on a park bench watching the city lights flicker on, Margot leaned her head against Evelyn's shoulder. "Do you ever think about falling in love again?" Margot asked softly. Evelyn swallowed. "Yes," she said. "Not because it was easy, but because it was true." Margot smiled, eyes closing as she rested there. Evelyn stayed still, afraid that if she moved, everything might change. And yet, deep down, she already knew. Something between them had begun. And there was no turning back. It happened on a night that felt too quiet to change anything. They were in Margot's apartment, windows open, city sounds drifting in. The lights were dim, the air heavy with something unspoken. They had been talking for hours about nothing important, and yet everything that mattered. Margot stood by the kitchen counter, arms crossed loosely, watching Evelyn with a softness that made Evelyn uneasy. "You've been distant lately," Margot said gently. "Did I do something wrong?" Evelyn shook her head too quickly. "No, you didn't. It wasn't a lie. It was just incomplete." Margot stepped closer, not invading her space, just close enough to be felt. "Then why do you look like you're about to leave?" Margot asked. Evelyn exhaled, long and slow. She had practiced this in her head 100 times, always ending with silence or regret, but standing there with Margot so close, pretending felt more painful than honesty. "Because I don't know how to want you without being afraid," Evelyn said. Margot's expression softened. "Wanting someone is always a little scary." "I know," Evelyn whispered. "But I'm already there. And I didn't mean to be." There it was. Not dramatic, not perfect, just truth. Margot reached out, hesitating only for a second before her fingers wrapped gently around Evelyn's hand. "I've been there for a while," Margot admitted. Evelyn looked up, heart racing. "You have?" Margot nodded. "I just didn't want to push you into something you weren't ready for." The space between them felt suddenly fragile, like glass. Evelyn moved first. She leaned in, slow enough to give Margot time to pull away. But Margot didn't. Their foreheads touched, breaths mingling, and in that pause everything felt possible. The kiss was soft, careful, as if both of them were afraid of breaking what they had just found. When they pulled apart, Margot smiled, a real one, the kind that reached her eyes. "So," she said quietly, "what are we doing?" Evelyn didn't hesitate this time. "We're trying," she said. "As long as it feels right." Margot squeezed her hand. "It already does." And for the first time in a long while, Evelyn let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this love would stay. Being with Margot felt effortless. There was no dramatic shift, no announcement to the world. They simply started showing up in each other's lives, a little more fully, longer mornings, slower nights, shared routines that didn't need names. Evelyn learned Margot in details. How Margot hummed softly while cooking. How she stole Evelyn's hoodies and claimed they were more comfortable. How she always reached for Evelyn's hand in her sleep, as if afraid she might disappear. Love, Evelyn realized, didn't always arrive as chaos. Sometimes it arrived as peace. They spent weekends doing nothing important grocery shopping, folding laundry, lying on the floor listening to old playlists, Margot talked about everything with ease, while Evelyn listened, content just to be there. "You're quiet," Margot said one afternoon, tracing circles on Evelyn's arm. "I'm happy," Evelyn replied. Margot smiled. "You say that like it's a surprise." "It is," Evelyn admitted. "I didn't think love could feel this safe." Margot kissed her temple. "That's what I want for us." Us. The word settled deep in Evelyn's chest. But even in happiness, small shadows existed. Margot had a way of pausing when conversations drifted toward the future. She spoke in maybes instead of plans. She never avoided the topic. But she never stayed there long either, Evelyn noticed. She didn't ask, because asking might change things. So she held on to the present, to the way Margot laughed, to the way she whispered Evelyn's name like it meant something sacred. And in those moments, Evelyn believed that love didn't need certainty to survive, that what they had was enough. For now, the first crack didn't come with an argument. It came with silence. Margot started coming home later than usual. Not dramatically late, just late enough to be noticed. She still smiled, still kissed Evelyn's cheek, still said "I'm tired" in the same gentle voice. But something had shifted. "You've been busy," Evelyn said one night, trying to sound casual. Margot nodded. "Yeah, work's been a lot." Evelyn accepted the answer because it was easy to accept, because pressing further felt like stepping onto thin ice. Still, the pauses grew longer. Conversations about the future turned vague. Margot spoke of stability now, of expectations, of paths that were simpler. She didn't say, Evelyn didn't fit into those paths. She didn't say she did either. One evening, Evelyn finally asked the question she had been holding back. "Where do you see us?" she asked softly. Margot didn't answer right away. She looked at Evelyn, the way someone looks at something precious they don't know how to keep. "I care about you," Margot said carefully. "You know that." Evelyn's chest tightened. "I didn't ask that," she replied. Margot reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I just need time." Time. The word felt heavier than a no. Evelyn nodded anyway, because love had taught her patience, because she believed that staying quiet was better than losing Margot entirely. That night, Evelyn lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, realizing that loving someone also meant learning how to wait, and how waiting could slowly hurt. Margot began talking about her family more, about expectations she had never mentioned before, about how certain lives were easier to explain, about how love sometimes wasn't enough to silence the noise of the world. She never blamed Evelyn, and that was the cruelest part. "I don't want to lose you," Margot said one afternoon, voice breaking just slightly. Evelyn smiled through the ache. "Then don't." Margot looked away. They started sleeping farther apart, not by choice, just by habit. Evelyn noticed how Margot no longer reached for her in the dark, how kisses became lighter, shorter, like apologies. Still, Evelyn stayed. She stayed through the uncertainty, through the half-truths, through the quiet realization that she was holding on tighter than Margot ever did. One night, as they sat on opposite ends of the couch, Margot spoke the words Evelyn had been dreading. "I don't know if I can choose this life," Margot whispered. Evelyn didn't ask what she meant. She already knew. She nodded slowly, swallowing the pain rising in her throat. "I wish loving me was easier." Margot's eyes filled with tears. "It's not you." Evelyn smiled sadly. She had learned by then that those words didn't hurt less just because they were true. And in that moment, Evelyn realized something devastating. She was still in love. Margot was already halfway gone. It wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no slammed doors, no accusations. Margot came home that evening with her usual gentle smile, but Evelyn could see it fragile, hesitant, and different. "I need to talk to you," Margot said softly. Evelyn's heart sank, though she tried not to show it. They sat on the couch, the air between them heavy with words unsaid. "I love you," Margot began. "I always will, but I can't stay. Not like this." Evelyn's hands went still. Her chest tightened. "Because of?" she asked quietly. Margot shook her head, tears brimming. "Because sometimes love isn't enough. Life, expectations, family. I'm trying, but I can't. I don't want to hurt you more by staying when I'm already halfway gone." Evelyn swallowed hard. "So this is it?" Margot nodded. "I think it has to be." They hugged, holding on like letting go would shatter them both. Evelyn felt every inch of herself breaking as she whispered, "I'll wait." Margot's hands trembled. "Don't, please, don't." And just like that, Margot left. Evelyn sat in the silence, the apartment echoing the emptiness Margot had taken with her. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Evelyn tried to move forward, but everything reminded her of Margot. The smell of coffee, the soft hum of a favorite song, the way the city lights flickered just like that night they first kissed. She tried to love someone else, but her heart always whispered Margot's name. She watched her friends fall in love, go on dates, find happiness, and felt left behind. Every message she sent, every call she made, felt like an echo of a life she once had. And deep inside, she knew some loves don't end neatly. Some leave a mark so permanent it aches every time you remember. Evelyn learned to live with the ache, to smile through the memories, to keep going, even though a part of her remained in Margot's apartment, in her laugh, in her hands that had once held hers so carefully. She was alive. She was moving forward. But a piece of her heart would always belong to Margot Lane. Evelyn hadn't expected to feel so hollow seeing the invitations. It was tucked between bills and flyers, white cardstock, elegant gold letters. Margot Lane and Elena Moore, January 2026, St. Clair's Chapel. Her hands trembled. Her chest ached. She dropped the invitation onto the table and stared at it, as if the words might rearrange themselves and undo reality. Margot, married to someone else. Evelyn replayed the memories of their life together in her head, their first coffee, the walks, the quiet nights, the soft kiss in the apartment, and realized it all belonged to a past Margot had quietly left behind. Her friends asked if she wanted to attend. She smiled weakly. "No, I just want to wish her happiness." Even now, even after everything, she loved Margot enough to want her to be happy. But loving her was no longer enough. The day of the wedding arrived. Evelyn sat in a quiet corner of the chapel, pretending to be calm. She watched Margot walk down the aisle, radiant, smiling at Elena. Her laugh, her eyes, the way she held herself, it all felt painfully familiar. Margot saw her. For a brief moment, their eyes met. There was recognition. There was longing. There was unspoken sorrow. And then the moment passed. Margot turned back to Elena, and Evelyn realized she had lost her completely. Evelyn's lips curved into a small, bittersweet smile. She whispered to herself, "I loved you, Margot Lane, I still do." And she let herself cry quietly. Not because she blamed Margot, not because she regretted, but because loving her once so fully, so completely was worth every ache, even if it meant letting her go. The ceremony went on. The vows were spoken, rings exchanged, happiness proclaimed. Evelyn clutched her coat tighter around herself and stepped outside into the winter air, letting the tears fall freely. The world moved on. Margot had moved on, and Evelyn would have to too. Some loves don't last forever. Some hearts remain haunted, and some memories, however painful, are too precious to ever forget. Evelyn stood alone on the quiet street outside the chapel, winter wind brushing her face. Her heart still ached, a hollow reminder of a love that had once been her world. She closed her eyes and let the memories wash over her, every laugh, every soft touch, every whispered, "I love you," that now lived only in the past. But amid the pain, there was a strange warmth. She had loved deeply, truly, fully, even if it wasn't enough to keep Margot. Evelyn took a deep breath and stepped forward. Each step felt heavier than the last, yet lighter than she imagined it could ever be. She would remember Margot, always, but she would also remember herself, the courage it took to love, to open her heart, and to survive when love slipped through her fingers. Some loves don't last forever. Some hearts carry scars, beautiful and painful, and some endings, though they break you, also teach you how to live again. Evelyn smiled softly to herself, letting a single tear fall. She was heartbroken. She was human. And she was still moving forward. Because love, even when lost, leaves a light that never truly fades.